Guys. Oh, happy Monday. Yeah, Steve can't hear his own work on his side, which that intro riff is his own guitar work, as you can see from the plethora of guitars he has behind him. Um, wow, guys, it's after hours real estate. We're a little bit late today. We're going back a little bit old school, and we're going back and forth. We're going to talk a little bit about mortgages today. We're going to talk just a little bit about nobody really knows what the hell's going on right now. And that's going to be fun to talk about. But it is after hours real estate. The whole point behind this show is to give you guys a little bit of insight into, what a couple of good old boy lender and realtors talk about when nobody else is around and they're sitting in a bar. That guy's the lender. That's Steve, Motto Mortgage. I'm the realtor. I guess technically I'm a broker associate, Chris Beshek. We're both outside of Austin, Texas. Do you have some beverage? What is it? Is that a Coca-Cola? Oh, it's a Carbach Love Streak.
I just
Um,
punched it
and
and spilled on myself. I haven't started drinking yet. It's cute.
that's amazing. So I'm drinking HEB sparkling water.
Oh, well,
Cheers.
cheers then, sir. Cheers.
Well, I mean, man, you know, I've been drinking a little bit much lately. Somebody took me to Detroit and I had too much to drink there.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything like that.
Yeah. And then my mom turned 80 this weekend, man. So we had a nice dinner with a bunch of friends. And there were like 100 people there. It was pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
So happy birthday, mom,
Hey,
again.
yep. Happy
She
birthday,
doesn't
mom.
want
And
it.
for those of you that don't know, we Chris and I went to Detroit for a training with UWM, United Wholesale Mortgage, and it was outstanding. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
We could bore you about the mortgage stuff. And quite frankly, they had a lot of great mortgage stuff.
Yeah.
Chris looked at me at one point, and he was all excited. And he was like, "Every time I go to one of these, I find something I need to go home with." And I found like three things at least right now. It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, you had a really good time, right? But
It was awesome. Well, the thing, like one thing that I want you to shout them out and talk a little bit just about because I had the conversation with a client last week. The difference between going to Rocket Mortgage or Wells Fargo or whatever, like a mortgage lender versus a broker, like you guys are brokers. Corey is a broker, your boss, I guess. I don't know why I did that. But so talk a little bit about because they laid it out in pretty plain terms, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
there's only so much I can say legally because I'm not
Yeah,
allowed to disparage other lenders. So, and
you
I, and
want me to
I'll
talk about
honest,
it?
well, honestly, a little bit, but yeah, I'll honestly say that you could have a terrific experience, and I've spoken to those who have with the online lenders, whether it be Rocket or someone else. Um, I've heard of people having wonderful experiences with them. I've heard of wonderful experiences that people have had with the big banks, right? With the big five, and again, I won't mention any names. But I've also heard of when some sort of local issue pops up,
Yeah.
it being a nightmare for those that aren't local. And
Guys, as a realtor, I want my bankers, my lenders local. Um,
yeah,
Underwriting concerns, stuff like that, appraisal issues. I want local people.
yeah. I hope I didn't disparage any other lenders because number one, I don't want to come off as negative, and number two, I legally can anyways, even if I didn't want to. I guess I can a little bit, but I can't say like X Bank sucks kind of things. Like never go to there for loans, right? And I don't know if there's an X Bank. If there is, I'm very
I
sorry.
was about to say
Uh,
Elon's going to sue the crap out of you.
yeah, I was literally like XYZX. It's just, okay. All right, just so we know, Shenanigans Bank. Well, I'm sure there's a Shenanigans Bank.
Probably.
Anyways, but at the end of the day, those that don't get paid when you don't close are the most motivated to close. Now that can be an issue if that person isn't closing enough to pay their mortgage that month with or
Yeah.
without you. Right. And I've said that from the beginning. You want to work with someone who's not, I mean, I hate to say it because everybody has to start somewhere, but you want to work with somebody who's not starving right now. Right.
Right. Yeah. I man, and I want to put this out there without sounding negative again, but with and people, if you've watched this show, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, if you've got comments or you've got questions, whatever, put them in the comment section. We'll answer them for sure. But even if they're derogatory towards Steve, if they're derogatory towards me, I'll cut you off. But
I think that sounds totally unfair. It's fine.
um, so I what I have noticed, and real estate has been interesting the last 18 months, we'll call it. And there are people who are struggling right now in real estate, both lenders and realtors and inspectors and appraisers. Like there are people in all facets of this industry that are hurting right now. Um, but one thing that I've noticed is when that starts to happen, as a buyer's agent, when you ask really simple questions, you get very, very elaborate responses and responses that probably shouldn't be given from listing agents. And you can always tell listing agents who are not starving versus those that are. And it helps to ask questions right now. Let's just say that if you're in another state and you're looking to buy something, make sure your buyer's agent is asking questions of the listing agent
You
because
know,
you're getting a lot of information right now. Just gonna say
so
that.
it's so true.
It is.
I went to a brewery last week with the family. It's kind of a family
I was
place.
about to say, I'm like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
else are you gonna do
yeah.
with the
Well,
family?
we're in Lago. It's the middle of nowhere. They got to have little, they got to mix them together, right? But they I ran into an agent there who is a very, very well known, very well to do agent. And I said, "How's it going?" And she goes, "Awful, slow, non-existent." I was like, "Oh, okay." How are you doing? Right? It was,
Yeah.
so it was. It didn't start off right, and it reminded me of being in the Uber on the ride home from our trip to the airport. And I'm going to
Wait,
swear, and I usually try not to
please
swear.
tell all the Uber stories.
God, I'm not
Um,
telling any more of the Uber stories. We have some other Uber stories that I would never tell. I will never
we
put on
almost
paper.
died
I
three
will.
times.
In the first one, it was a religious conversion Uber ride, and let me tell you, the bait was not appropriate.
Interesting tactics. We'll just
Oh
say that.
God!
Oh, it was so interesting that Steve just
Oh,
left.
can you see me? There I am. Okay, but then we're going to the airport, and you've frozen on my screen. My son was trying to FaceTime with me. Did I just screw
Oh,
this
I
up?
can see you. Can you hear
There
me?
we are. Wonderful. Great.
Okay.
Okay, so we're driving to the airport, and Chris and I are talking about the UWM thing we just went to. We're literally talking about, wow, I didn't realize the web page gets you leads, and there's, but yada yada. We're talking about all these things from what we've experienced, right? This training that we went to, and the guy that's driving us says, "Hey, are you guys realtors?" And we laugh, and Chris is like, "Well, I am." I said, "Well, I'm a mortgage lender. What's going on?" He goes, "Well, I'm a lender." So really, how are things going? And he turns around, and he goes, "How the fuck do you think they're going? I'm driving an Uber." And it wouldn't. It's not
True
funny because it's
story.
actually sad. But
Direct quote. Direct quote.
oh God, it was so funny. I mean, it wasn't funny. It was, but
No,
yeah, it was.
it was fun. It was shocking funny, not funny.
Well, yeah, and he was asking us how Austin was compared to Detroit, and the two aren't exactly comparable from what I
No.
understand. But they're not that far off. And oh God, the way he replied, like, "What are you, an idiot?" I mean, it was just perfect. Yeah, it was perfect.
Oh man.
Summed up the trip, that's for sure.
That is a fact. So I'm going to pop in just in case anybody is curious right now, because it's a real estate show. Um, so right now, according to Mortgage News Daily, um, 30-year fixed about 6.95 on average.
What does
Um,
this say? I'm sorry, hold on. We're less likely to get shot here than in Detroit.
that's a fact.
Last time
That's
I was at
showing
the
up. Oh,
Detroit
that is
airport,
showing up on there. Sweet, it shows up directly.
one of the
Um,
last times I was at the Detroit airport, there was a T-shirt with a pistol on it. It said, "Misty this time, get you next time." So that was not an inaccurate comment. That was absolutely accurate.
Look, I will say the parts of Detroit that we saw were pleasant.
Oh,
We did
really?
see some of the downtown.
I remember one time you literally looked at me and you go, "Oh, is this what the Detroit they're talking about?"
Well, that's because we were driving by downtown and there was a giant building that didn't have any windows in it.
Right.
Like
And it was.
18
That was
story
it.
building and it was crumbling. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, so this is the Detroit that everybody
Uh,
talks about? Yeah, okay.
mhm.
Outside of that, like where we stayed, it was fine. It wasn't, I mean, it was picturesque, had really big trees and green
Where
grass.
we stayed was fine. That casino we went to, I was afraid to stand outside. I went inside. I was like, no, we're gonna go around security. I had a phone call to take. It's like,
Now
no, we'll do
everybody
that in
knows
the
that we
lobby.
hung out at a casino. Good job,
You know,
Steve.
only for a quick stop. It wasn't crazy. It's
Yeah, it
nothing.
really wasn't long, about
I
an hour and a half.
Yeah,
So
didn't
yeah,
take
that's
long
kind
to
of what
lose money.
average rates are looking like right now. But I want to look at something real quick though, because this is interesting and I never read it. But if y'all are ever curious, mortgage-backed security prices, this is the trend. The trend is positive, meaning mortgage-backed securities are moderately stronger. And it says this upward movement could move mortgage rates lower. So that's cool. I never noticed that on there before. So it kind of gives you a predictor a little
Right.
bit. Um,
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing I do want to point out for everybody, and this is what Steve and I have been talking about, with one exception last year in July, or I guess that's
Yeah,
September.
very
Uh,
quick exception.
well, but here's the thing: it started in July. If y'all remember, guys, if y'all are watching the show at the beginning of last year, I called it. I was like, interest rates are going to go down in July because we've got an election coming up, and in July, interest rates, which were right about where they are now, plummeted to September and they skyrocketed right back up. So,
Right.
oh no,
Emergency rate cut. Just remember
yeah,
that? It's an
emergency
emergency
rate
rate
cut.
cut.
Oh, the Fed is not political at all.
Right.
Only
Why did
I
they need
called
an
it out.
emergency rate cut? Well, because we need it. We
Yeah,
do. Okay. All right.
only
That's
called
fine.
crap out ahead of time, 6 months in advance.
Right. And
Anyway,
so now, since then, we've had 10 rate cuts from the European central banks, the ECB, and we've had
oh, that's
none
right.
here.
Here we go. I'm busting number two. No, Cheryl asked if we went outside for a run.
We walked around the hotel a couple times, but
We
we
did.
didn't go. There we go. Now I can see it. God, I can't.
Well, StreamYard is starting this thing where they can show the comments directly as they come in, and I've got it
I gotta be
on, but
like,
it's so small.
where is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're on your phone too. I'm going to turn that off. Actually, no, I'll leave it on.
I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. It's
Yeah,
nice.
it's cool. Oh,
Yeah.
it didn't. Oh, I turned it back on and it didn't repopulate. Anyway,
Real mature. Very
real
cute.
mature. Um, so we were jumping in and guys, honestly, I've been showing houses all day for the last 2 days, and I didn't have a chance to do much research. And I called Steve and I'm like, hey, what are we going to talk about? And he's like, there's nothing that's interesting happening. You mentioned gold and seeing that mortgage-backed securities are going up. I guess that's why gold's going up also.
So I hate getting political, but just to be blunt, it seems as though Jerome Powell, from not just his actions, his speech says nothing of this, but
Yeah,
friends of his that have come out and spoken on his behalf or behind his back, and actions. It seems as though he hates our president with a passion, and wants to do everything he can to you know not help is
right,
really what it looks like. And when you really want to put that in, the way you put that in perspective is just say, well, what's the rest of the world looking? What are they doing? What are their, feds doing
right,
with their banks, right? What are they doing with their rates? Are they doing what Jerome Powell is doing, which is he's done one emergency rate cut before the election, and then he's been doing nothing since then. Well, okay, what's happened to the rest of the world since then? Well, again, if you look at Europe, they've had 10 rate cuts since then. What's it in response to? Well, jobs and inflation. And if
I'm
you
gonna
look
pop
over
this up
here,
again. Just so y'all look, guys. I mean, we've had basically stable rates ish since the middle of 2023.
so Jerome Powell's position is, in a nutshell, well, the Trump tariffs might be stupid, so we're just going to see how they look.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything until we really see what's coming out here. And in the meantime, we've had a government. God, what is it? It's an entity within the government that is not Republican run, and that's important for the what they've explained. They do projections. God, I can't remember to save my life. Look up
CBO,
2.8 trillion. Just look up
CBO,
2.8 trillion. Is it CBO?
CBO.
Thank you, CBO. And they have projected that the Trump tariffs will reduce our what are they called? Our deficit by $2.8 trillion, if I remember correctly.
Wait,
Uh,
keep going, but that's a little bit of a misnomer.
Did it get revised? Is it not accurate? It came out the other day, and my jaw dropped to the floor. It was like, well, hold on. That means we
So,
have a
well, here's
surplus
the
instead of a
thing.
deficit.
They said, and I didn't realize this. I found a new follow on X on Twitter. I think the guy. I'll have to look up his name. I was trying to find the European Bank charts, but anyway, I was listening to this guy on Twitter, and he said it's weird the way the CBO does their projections because they're projecting 2.7 or 2.8 trillion dollar reduction in the deficit, but what they measure separately is additions to the deficit. So there's two separate numbers and you have to add them together. But over the next 10 years, there's like a $2.8 trillion projected reduction and a 2.5 or a 2.6 projected addition. So it's still a net negative. It's just not a $2.5 trillion net negative, but it's still a net negative, which is kind of a big deal.
I guess. I guess. So if you really want to know why gold prices might be going up and why the dollar is weakening and why inflation isn't really slowing down like we were expecting it to or hoping it to,
Yeah.
it's literally what you just talked about. It's debt. Debt is the biggest single driver for all of those things. It's U.S. debt. We don't know how to get rid of it. If the tariffs don't work, and trust me, even economists on the left are hoping the tariffs work, right?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
if because that debt is just out of control, but if the tariffs don't work, and it's increasingly likely, looking likely that they're not going to, um, uh, you
Oh,
know,
I thought that it was looking more likely that they will. I don't know.
you show me a $2.8 trillion takeaway, and then add 2.7, like you said, no, it doesn't matter.
They're for Trump to get the other countries to negotiate. Yeah, yeah, get our tariffs down, start talking to other countries. Yep, that's the whole key. It's all about for him. It's all about getting people to the
Well,
negotiating table.
he's the one that could do it, man. If anybody's going
Yeah.
to negotiate, it's going to be him. The question is, what's it going to do? What's it going to look like? And quite frankly, no matter what people tell you in the media, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for this to play out. Even if the tariffs get solidified tomorrow, right? Well, then
Oh
you
yeah.
still have to ship the stuff over here. You're going to have new factories opening up. You've got new. It doesn't just equal out immediately, right? It's going to take a long time to really settle down. And 2 or 3 years is probably being, you know that's probably not being accurate either. It's probably going to take like
Oh
five
yeah.
or ten, but you will be able to see the impact of this in 2 or 3 years or sooner. I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm fearful, really, honestly. Is it really at the end of the
Yeah.
day?
This is the guy that I started following. By the way, guys, I think this guy is a great follow on X. Scott Adams. Scott Adams says, um, like one of the things that he was pointing out, and it's exactly what you're saying, because everybody's been complaining, like, oh, I hate it's so stupid. I hate when they give bills a name, right? The big beautiful bill. Anyway, they when they talk about it, a lot of people are upset. They're like, well, it's front loaded with all the cuts up front, and then the additions are going to be on the back end, and the next president's going to get screwed. And I'm sitting there going, that's actually pretty brilliant because the CBO estimate is not like, and this is what Scott Adams talks about. He's like, look, it never gets to 10 years. Why the hell the CBO projects out over 10 years is beyond anybody because it never gets more than
Because it
3 years
sounds
down the road
bigger. It sounds
because
bigger.
the next president always changes it. He's like, so do a 2 year projection, do a 3 year projection, but if it's loaded up front with all of the cuts, then that means the next 3 years there should be massive cuts, and then whoever the next president is going to do their own thing, so it doesn't really matter what's after that. I
Right.
mean, and it makes perfect sense when you look at it through that lens. I was
Yeah.
wondering why it was a 10 year projection. Like,
Well,
all this
because
stuff is
the
overdone
whole
for
thing is a facade. The whole
yeah,
thing is a show.
yeah.
There was someone that died recently. I won't mention his name because I don't want to get political, but he said that politics is Hollywood for the ugly, and he was totally accurate. It is. It's Hollywood for the ugly. It's exactly what it is. If you're
Wait,
too
who is
ugly, you go into
that? I never heard
politics.
that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you after the show.
God damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so you and your wife, you started to tell me that y'all were driving around.
Oh, yes. Yes, it did. So, wow, that took me a second. We were driving to the pool, and my wife said, "Why does it feel like every other home is for sale right now?"
That's interesting. Did the vast majority of y'all neighborhood buy during COVID?
So, what a great question. I'll give you a story answer. When we moved in, we came out here specifically looking for a neighborhood like this one. I have an autistic child. He is very vocal. He needs lots of space, outdoor areas. We didn't want to be in a city where we kind of were. We were like 10 minutes outside of Austin, and there were sirens everywhere, every night, all the time. It was just loud. We needed to be kind of like in a farm, you know. I just wanted to be out here, and so
Yeah,
we got out here, and the GPS didn't find what we were looking for. It took us to the wrong neighborhood. We had seen some sort of advertisement online. We went to the advertisement again, back to the GPS. All right, we're at the right place. So we went into some old neighborhood. There happened to be a small area where they were building houses. They're like, "Oh, this is what you're looking for. You're not here. I mean, I'll go over there." Oh, great. They pointed us to the right direction. We got there, told them that their online presence was pointing you to the wrong location. Unbelievable, right? And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're getting that fixed with the city. It's great. So how many sales have you had? One in the last 6 months." So you will be two on the new build area here, and we're hoping to build it up over the next 10 to 12 years, 2,000 homes. And, you know, I don't know why the demand isn't pushing, but we're trying some new advertising stuff. Oh, well, great. We'll take your specials. Let's go. Then we
yeah,
built the house, and it was finished, and we moved in January 1st of 2020.
right before
Um,
COVID.
right before the fan got really dirty, right? And so yeah, and so we moved in, and then suddenly within like the next year, they were sold out of all plots. They were backed up with a waiting list for like a year and a half. They were building a home every 4 months, but they had like 10 crews. So
Yeah,
we're talking 10 homes a month. I mean, it was unreal how fast these things went up. Um, but yeah, so now that things, the artificial world that we were forced into immediately overnight has reverted back to, or at least started to revert back to what it used to be. People want out. They want out. I don't know if you're seeing every three or four homes, or the third or fourth home for sale in the city, because I haven't been to the city recently, or out on the outskirts of
yeah.
that, but out here, like 45 minutes outside of the city,
I've
that's a
I've
lot
got
of
a
listings.
I'm seeing it. Cheryl, the agent who's commenting on your on us right here.
I heard of Cheryl. I
Um,
know she's a good agent. Yeah.
she's in Dripping Springs. She lives about 5 miles from me. She's got a listing in your neighborhood, and
Oh, nice.
she can comment on the amount of activity. But I would say that it's not a bunch. Um,
Yeah, and the person I talked to, there's nobody bigger in our neighborhood, and if she's saying there's no activity, I mean, it's really got to be dead. I
yeah,
talked to another one who was like, "Look, man, it's like 150 homes for sale and two buyers. Sorry, like, there's nothing. I mean, you lower the price if you want, but if they're not interested, those two buyers are just not interested."
that's man, that sounds like something I would tell people.
Yeah,
Honestly, I mean, it really is. And it's so it's funny. The thing that I've noticed is, and a really wise man once told me, and you know him. Oh my gosh, Mark Sprague. He's like everything. If you imagine Austin as a heart, and it's a heartbeat, right? And everything is in concentric circles. And when it's beating, boy, there it's going. But when it's not beating, everything's contracting in, right?
well, didn't Mark Sprague tell us that in 2025 we were going to have the biggest first-time home buyer market in history?
He did. He did. He was off a little bit.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, we haven't finished 2025. We'll see. He said it would start this year.
I don't know, man, because it is it because and man, as I think about that, I got to think about what I'm saying here because we've talked about it on the show. The vast majority of new construction is first time home buyer type construction, and it's all happening on the outskirts.
All
And
right.
they
Well,
are giving
but they don't.
incentives, and people are buying them, man.
But they don't have an option. They can't. The higher interest rates, they're not going to build $1 million homes. I mean, come on now. There's no other option right now.
But again, was he wrong?
Well, I guess who's buying them? I don't think it's all first-time home buyers. I think
No,
it's.
it
I
could
think
be
it's.
move downs and yeah,
He
stuff
was
like that.
specifically, and that's the problem with the term first-time home buyer. Most of
Yeah,
us hear young person, right? But a first-time home buyer is typically defined, and by the way, it's per program. Each program is different. They're usually the same, but a lot of them have been different in my experience. So some of them define them as 2 years, 3 years, but typically it's someone who has not owned a home for the last 3 years is considered a first-time home buyer. So if grandma sells her home at 70 and then buys again at 73, let's just say 74 to make sure the math is good, she's a first-time home buyer, even if she's had 50 homes in her lifetime, right?
Yep.
And so it's kind of, take it with a grain of salt. What he was talking about was demographics. He was saying that you'd have a huge amount of young people making more money than they've ever made ever before in history,
Yep.
literally. And then when they'd marry together, the two of them would be at $350,000 a year, and they'd be buying a home, first time starter home at higher interest rates, but still it'd be like the same home that you and I bought when you first, starter
Sure.
home, whatever. And I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know if he
Yeah.
factored in the student loans being reactivated. I don't know if he
That's a
factored.
good point. That is a good point.
Did he factor in the tariffs? How could he?
Yeah, it wouldn't have known.
That's the
Yeah.
problem with the economic outlooks, though. Is how the hell do you know
Right.
everything's going to happen? Like you can't Ukraine war. All the
Yeah.
you just never know everything that's going to happen.
Right. But anyway, going back, what I'm seeing is the outlying areas are the ones that are hurting a little bit more. Lago Vista, Dripping Springs, Bastrop. I would say, Taylor and Gerald and stuff like that, but no, because they're still putting a lot of cheaper first time home buyer product on the ground, so that stuff is still moving. But the areas where the land's just too expensive to do it, there's Dripping Springs is seeing. I don't know a specific number, but I was guessing that we're probably down 15% from our max in 2003, I guess, or late 2022. Not 2003, 2023. We're probably down 15% from our max right now. We're still up since the beginning of COVID, but we're down probably 15%. And I'm seeing that in those areas, right? Like where you are, Blanco struggling, Johnson City. So yeah. What is he saying? Ha! Your buddy Michael's giving you crap. Uh,
Good times, man.
I I saw this. I just saw this pop up, so I'm going to share this. This is interesting. This is a survey of realtors, and it's saying 68% of agents nationally report that clients are delaying their plans to move due to economic concerns. And by area, Northern Florida, Texas, Midwest, Southern Florida, National.
Where were the fires in California? Was that Southern California?
Yeah, but Southern California, they're saying nope, nobody's worried about it.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I guess so. They have to buy a house. Wow, I'm dense. My bad.
I'm sorry, it's the only one that's green. I couldn't help it. Oh, it's
No, that makes
terrible.
sense. Oh well, Northern California
There's
also.
a whole
Well,
lot of land, everybody. Come on in. Don't, just don't worry
yeah.
about it.
You know, dude, the thing that's interesting here. So it's saying Texas, 30% of agents said most of my clients are holding off because of economic uncertainty. Um, or some of them are. So 40 or 62% total. I have not had a buyer that I've talked to that's like, no, I'm going to hold off. The buyers that I'm working with, they're like, okay, it's time to buy a house.
You know what's funny is that's what I'm running into as well with the ones that are looking. But I think they're probably talking about the reason why the buyer pool doesn't look like it did a year or two ago,
That's possible. And
or two or three ago.
but I guess what I'm struggling with here is, you know, the folks of mine that have bought that maybe would sell and buy. I guess they're not selling
It's
and
it's
then
funny.
buying.
I strive so hard not to talk about politics on this show, but it seems as though a lot of the buying selling mentality right now is political. I I,
It
I
is.
keep I keep reading these articles. In fact, I just met a guy the other day who owns a gold bullion shop. He buys and sells gold bullion and ancient coins, and he is like, look, man, before the election, we had tons of Trump people coming in here buying just swaths of gold. from us in record number. It was a great before the election. All this money we were making, and then after the election, they stopped. They were like, "Oh, we didn't have to buy gold anymore. We're
Yeah,
fine. The election,
the
the
guys in
economy is
office.
going to be wonderful. It's been saved by our savior Trump." And then
Right.
what happened was he's like, and then all of a sudden we get all these Democrats that are coming in, and they're like, "Holy shit, Trump's going to mess up everything. We need to buy gold and silver and everything we can." And so now they're buying all this stuff, and it's I swear to God, I read another article like 6 months ago about how the stock market does the same thing with
Yeah,
the not the market itself, but the mentality of the buyers when
yeah.
the confidence level, right? Well, it would literally shift during administration shifts. It's like, well, the economy's strong, son, time to invest, but you only say it because of who's president. It's just
Yeah.
unreal.
Isn't it insane though that
Oh, I,
people
I think it's
have
fascinating.
uh,
Yeah.
such a myopic view of the economy?
Well,
My
perception
guy
is
good, your
reality.
guy bad. Oh, absolutely, with everybody.
Right. So what
Yeah,
you perceive becomes how you live your world, whether it is that way or not. Um, I don't
it's
know. What
amazing.
I found really funny recently is the whole Musk Trump thing. It's like people are like confused.
What happened?
Crap. Who do I side with? But he
Yeah,
said Trump is corrupt. But wait a minute. Crap. I just spent a long time trusting him, and it's anyway. It's interesting to watch. It's just very interesting to watch.
yeah. It's
Anybody who hasn't watched this before, I'm very independent. I make everyone angry, so don't start. I'm sorry if I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
I actually get offended if somebody calls me a Republican.
I don't. I don't.
I do. I'm
No,
like,
there's that quote from
don't put me.
Churchill. If you're young and liberal, you're wait. What was it? If when you're young, if you're not liberal, you're heartless, and if you're old, if you're not conservative, you're brainless.
Brainless. That's
I
right.
told my son that today. I said, "Which one would you rather be, heartless or brainless?" And he goes, "I don't know, Dad." It was such a. I honestly hope he makes his own choices, but I thought it was funny. We
Yeah.
somehow ran into that quote.
No. Well, the funny thing is nobody would ever accuse me of being a liberal. But
No.
but if they say I'm a Republican, I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm not. I'm, I'm pretty central. I'm pretty centrist in this whole thing. Like, just don't you pigeonhole me.
I don't know what gets to me recently is I've been on LinkedIn recently, and I can't understand how people are like going online on a job workplace bashing anything political. You
Yeah,
people are so stupid for, fill in the blank.
right.
And this is before and after the election. So I mean, we're talking, it doesn't matter, right? Great. I just come on. Are you sure you're never going to lose your job? And if you do never lose your job, or if you do ever lose your job, are you sure that future employer is not going to look and be like, wow, this person's kind of a psycho, right? Like
Yeah,
we
right.
don't want to take Mr. Trigger Happy onto the campus here, right? Like I swear to God, I read it and I'm like, are you crazy? What's wrong with you?
Dude, I think that goes back. Like, I think that goes back to the difference between us as Gen Xers, and I know you're an old millennial, but I still kind of consider you a Gen Xer. I think it's the difference between Gen
Me
Xers and
too.
everybody else. Gen Xers are like, just leave me alone. I don't want you to know what I'm doing. And
Well,
everybody else is like, I want everybody to know what I'm
but
doing.
not only that, have you ever read a post and you're like, wow, that's a good point. I'm going to switch parties.
No,
No, no one has ever done that in the history of ever, unless you're like under 12, right? Okay,
right,
yeah, maybe. Okay, I guess it's kind of how I think. Okay, so then what are you actually trying to do when you do that online? I guess
right,
you're trying to rah-rah your friends, right?
right.
Hey, yeah, rah, rah, rah. Okay, friends. Okay, so now we're just going to rah-rah our friends at the expense of your future employment. And well, screw it, I wouldn't want to work for them anyways. Well, okay, well, great. Hope you have enough money and enough options later in life, right? Like I see it and I'm like, stupid. But maybe that's just generationally difference. I don't know. Maybe I'm old.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
I
old.
mean, yeah, I'm with you on it, man. I'm with you. I
For
don't.
everyone watching, if you work with me, I'm going to treat you the same as everyone else. Let's just leave it like that. It doesn't matter how you think. I promise.
Honestly, I don't care how you think.
Yeah, yeah. Chris doesn't either. Honestly,
Would
no.
would you like to buy a house? Would you like to invest? Would you like to sell
Yeah.
a house? Okay, we'll talk about that and we'll find things that make sense. And cool. And if you like me, we'll be
That's,
friends. And if you don't like me, we won't. That's cool.
we might like you a little more if you'll share a beer with us during
I
the
will like you
process.
a lot more if you will drink a beer or whiskey or
Right.
wine
It's not mandatory. It's
or
just
coffee.
optional.
I will like you if you share coffee with me too.
I had a client one time that I was working with for so long. they went to a new build community. Then the new build community was running a special, and it was better than I could match. And I just told her, look, it's okay, don't worry about it. Go with them. And she's like, are you sure? I feel so badly. And like a week later, I had a wine and beer delivery service show up with a case of beer to my house. And it was just her saying, I'm so sorry, and here's a case of beer. And it was like, well, you really
Nice.
understand me. Yeah, you
Yeah.
understand me really well. That made
Yeah.
it. I mean, now I have a story to tell people. It was great.
I, I've had that a couple of times. Clients, case of Yingling. Let's go.
And that's a cheap one too. I mean, come on,
Well,
come on.
no, they were from the East Coast, so
I mean,
and so we obviously talked about Yingling because we couldn't get it here at that
I'm
point in
just
time.
saying, everyone watching, it's not that tough. Just
You,
Yingling. It's
they
good.
always say the way to a man's heart's through his stomach.
It is tough. I'm just kidding. No,
Uh,
all good. I feel like I'm digging a hole now, so I'm gonna stop talking.
you're good. Okay, man. We're so here's the thing.
Oh, that's all. That's wits. Results.
We are. Hi, Toby.
Hey, there's blood test.
Got it.
That's awesome.
We have a child who's having sleep issues where he's waking up and we're not sure if they're seizures or if they are something else. And we just got the results back. She showed me. So I'm sitting here doing the show,
Okay.
looking over to my left, saying, what is she saying? What is she saying? But all the tests came back positive. So we're good. Everything's in green. He's good. He's healthy. So
Okay. No seizures. That's good.
you kind of wish something be off. So you'd be like, oh, I got it.
Yeah,
Iron pills. You're solved.
I
We're
get that.
fixed.
I get that.
Uh,
Yeah, for sure. What was I going to say? We are. So here we're coming up on halfway through the year. Okay. Yep. You know where I'm
yes.
going.
Yeah,
You
I
know
don't
where
want to
I'm
do one
going.
now.
All right. Yeah, you're going to do it. I'm going to make you. All right. Give me one thing you know and one thing you think for the rest of the year. Real estate related.
Real estate related?
Yep.
I was about to talk about gold.
It would have to be real estate related.
I suppose you can buy a house with gold. Um, I think the price of gold is going up. I think we will exceed $4,000 in gold.
Wow. Where is it now? 32?
35.
Okay. I just saw
It's
platinum is up like 15% in the last month.
that, and silver is up too.
Okay.
Um, that typically happens to offset currencies.
Yes.
So think of this: if you were in Weimar, Germany, which everyone loves to use as an example because they're the modern day city or state, whatever, that went hyperinflation. And you had one gold piece that today would be about $3,500. You would be able to, about 2 years in, you would be able to transfer that gold piece for enough currency to pay off your home and your neighbor's house, in their currency at the time. And so, if you
I
had
don't
taken it, go ahead.
what I don't understand is why.
Because the
Because
value of that gold is the same everywhere, right? So if you went to France, the exchange
uh,
rate between what the currency used to be for, let's just say, $3,500, right, and what okay, well, so think of it this way: in ancient Rome, one gold coin could buy you the finest robes. And if you equate one gold coin, today it's about half of 3,500. That's for an ounce, so it'd be a half ounce coin.
right.
So it'd be about like 1750, right? Well, if you wanted to go buy a fine suit in New York City, it'd be about 1750,
Okay.
right around $2,000 for one of the nicest suits, right? And that's always been a standard. So if you had a gold coin in Rome, that same gold coin would be worth today a suit in New York City. Literally the same coin. The only difference now is there's a collector's
Yeah.
value to it on top of that. But that much in meltdown value gold would get you that suit. And it's just been a standard. So in Weimar, Germany, a suit would have been worth a house in that old currency. Do you understand? So when the
That
currency
makes
is
sense.
worthless, when you have wheelbarrows full of currency
Right.
to get bread like they did, right? It would just really means your currency is worthless. It does not mean gold is not worthless, right?
Okay.
The houses still had lots of value, but if they were stuck in a banknote, which they all got converted, by the way, you couldn't just
Yeah.
take a gold coin and pay off your house. You wish, right? And that's what we all hope for. Um, but No, the whole point of that is to really preserve value. Take it
Okay.
someplace else if you need to.
All right. So you think gold's going over 4,000?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin will as well.
It's 8. That's an eighth. I mean, honestly, that's only 8%.
8?
Yeah, from 3,500 to 4,000. I think that's about 8%.
13 and a
No,
half,
it's
something like
yeah,
that.
maybe it's 12.5%.
Anyways, whatever. Bottom line is, I think that's going up. It's already gone up like 25% this year.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's going to continue to. I think that the rate will go down. I think Jerome Powell will be forced to cut rates. I think it's going to get so political for him that he's going to be forced to do it because he's supposed to be apolitical, and I think that the opponent he's up against will make a hissy fit until he does, and so we'll
Yeah.
see. And I think the rates will come down, but I don't think they'll come down much.
Okay. So what do you know? What are you willing to stake your claim on?
What do I know? I know that the older I get, the more I feel I don't know.
You're such a chicken shit.
I already said it though. I said I think gold's going to go to 4,000 or above. I
Yeah,
think
but
Bitcoin's going
you
to go
said
up, and
think. You
I think
said
the
think.
rates. What am I going to? What are you asking me for? What do you
I'm
know?
telling you to go. This is going to happen.
Nope. No, I don't do that. No way. Fine. 5.9% rates.
Wow, really? That's okay. Damn, I would have said I know gold's going north of 4,000. I wouldn't have stuck it out there for 5.9.
I don't know how our economy, not economy, our dollar outlives our debt. So I think
Yeah,
the government's going to throw everything they have at it, try to throw out some lower rates, but I think inflation will increase.
but inflation's down.
Inflation should continue to go down if the tariffs work.
Yeah. Well, so that was an interesting thing. We don't have enough time to talk about it. Maybe next time we'll talk about it. How the the tariffs were implemented, right? Which they still aren't fully in, and
That
there's
was
all
all
this.
negotiation tactic.
Yeah,
If you read his book, that was classic Trump.
yeah. But they're like, oh look, inflation's up. The tariffs didn't work. This is like at the end of February, and then now in May, oh crap, the tariffs worked. Inflation's down, and when you look into it, it's because everybody was like offshore getting everything that they needed in before the tariffs took effect. So there was a huge knock on the net GDP and stuff.
Yeah,
So
but
it
again,
was
that's
pretty
that's
interesting.
Hollywood stuff. That's
Yeah,
Hollywood stuff. They knew that. Okay, we're all offsetting. Great, the numbers are going to come out. Crap. Let's just get those articles pre-written. That kind of
yeah,
crap. That's all Hollywood stuff. What's really going to matter is what happens in the next year to like 3 years,
yeah,
and then the next 5 to 10 years. But again, who's to say the next administration, whoever it is, won't
yeah.
screw it up?
Right. That's true. It's interesting. Um, Interesting for
Shit,
sure.
Trump's talking about another term, which he can't do without Congress changing the laws. So, I'm honestly,
He
any
cracks me up.
economist that tells you what's going to happen is full of it, man. They have no idea.
He cracks me up when he talks about that because that's him just kind of taking the knife and twisting it.
I think so too. But at the end of the day, man, what I'm really trying to really hit home here is that nobody knows.
No, but you know that rates are going to 5.9. I appreciate it. I'm
Oh,
gonna.
you forced me. There's a gun to my head. 5.9.
You
Fine.
could have said 6.5, man.
3.1. Yeah, I don't know. Let's aim high.
Jeez. All right, guys, we're gonna cut it there. If y'all, man, if y'all have got thoughts for next week, let us know. Yeah, kill it.
Yeah, it's time.
But we'll be back on a little bit more of a focused video next week. I promise. This one was kind of off the rails, but man, Steve, I appreciate it as always.
I appreciate you, brother.
We'll see y'all next Monday.